5th of 2025. A lot of people like to know the date, the time, in the year. Brendan
A
Martin.
lot of people look at their phone in the morning and they just get it right like that.
Yeah, and then you get the weather. My wife always says, "What's the weather report?" Now she wants it the night before. Hey,
All right.
got a great show today. Auburn baseball coach Butch Thompson bats in the leadoff position. Auburn in the Super Regional. They'll be hosting Coastal Carolina this weekend down at Plainsman Park. Oakley McFerrin, our intern, will be on with us. We've also got Matt Dean. Coach Matt Dean should be joining us
Matt
here
Dean.
in just a moment. Should be on here. And in the second half,
I see him in there. I see him
Gary
in the green
Harris.
room.
Good deal. Because he was saying, I know John Hartwell's interviewing another candidate for a baseball coach today. So anyway, he is out today. But Gary Harris from Tuscaloosa joins us in the second half. Look, do us a favor. Take your cellular phone. Take a picture of the QR code. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, 7 channels, 7 shows on this channel simultaneously. We're all over the place. And we got shows.
DoorDash coffee.
Yeah, DoorDash, and I'm drinking out of Sidelines and Bim Bam burgers and breakfast in Oxford cup. So it is a great day. So let's go ahead and get started with this great panel that we have of some really smart people, starting with Auburn baseball coach Butch Thompson. And Matt and Oakley will be in here momentarily, I guess. But Coach, this week, I know you got it down to a science, and you just it's a process. I was reminding somebody yesterday, I told you one time, I said, you look so calm over there in the dugout but you're always leaning forward. You're eating on those sunflower seeds. And you said, Rob, I'm a lot like a duck that you like to shoot. And my feet under the water, a duck's feet are moving. I'm moving, and I'm thinking, you mentioned you've had 16 of your pitchers go to the major leagues in the last 10 years. Wow, that's an incredible stat. Let's talk about your team and how connected they are going into the Super Regional tomorrow.
Yeah, good morning, War Eagle. Hope things are great. This is an exciting time for the year for us. I mean, this is what it's all about. So, Sweet 16 for our basketball folks. That's 64. All those regionals around. It's hard to kind of people to equate and keep up. So I always use like the Super Regionals as a Sweet 16, and you're trying to make the Elite 8, and you got one team standing in your way. We got a Coastal Carolina team that's pretty good, and only 21 games in a row they've won, and 51 games. They've won the most games in the country, and come in here as the hottest team in America. So, but they do stand between us and a third trip to Omaha since 2019. So. I know our fans are going to be ready. It was amazing. We had our largest crowds in the history of our program last weekend, and just over 22,000. So hopefully they'll all circle back up and come back Friday night to help us out against Coastal.
Yeah, one more before we go to Matt. Looking at this, you talked about baseball, and you do this always. All over the country, it's good. Teams like Michigan, teams like Stony Brook that came out of nowhere seemingly a few years ago, but they're all being coached by coaches that know what they're doing. Were you surprised that there's only 4 of the 13 SEC teams still alive? And if not, what do you attribute that to?
Well, your head's down, as an individual coach of one team, and it's just kind of a drive for us. There are moments, I mean, we're human, where you come up a certain time of the day for 30 minutes or something and hear others talk. And for 9 of our teams in our league not to still be playing is, all of wouldn't make it because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's absolutely a grind and a challenge. And there's a randomness to baseball. You can hit a ball 111 off the bat. It can go straight to a glove. You can hit a ball 72 miles per hour and it dunk over third base, drop in, and you have a double. There's some randomness in the game of baseball that, is always on display. This was an extremely hard year in the SEC, meaning that 10-week journey, how we really beat up on each other. It was I just think there's a list, and you go through a list, and I would have to look at individual games. And, if you can't ever perform in one weekend on the mound, your season's over. If you can't maintain a certain level of consistency, you're done. If your offense has a weekend and scores 32 runs and they come back the next weekend and score 6 runs in a series, you're done. So there's some type of consistency that didn't happen for us that's in our league that's happened in the past and happens often. And whatever we have left, 4 teams that are still remaining, and it looks like we would have a sincere chance of having 3 teams represented in Omaha. Our last time in 22, I think half the field. And you have to remember the expectation of what we're used to. We're used to maybe 4 of the 8 teams that qualify from Omaha being from our conference, which is not going to happen every year. And we still have a chance to get 3 teams to Omaha, which would be amazing. Arkansas and Tennessee, only one of those guys can go since they're head-to-head this weekend. But
Yeah,
that's our challenge. We played a really good regional last weekend and was not behind the entire regional in our 3 games. But if we give up 1 in the first and haven't scored, we could be behind. And the consistency of our offense, I think we have to continue that if we have any chance of wanting to be competitive against Coastal. They got the number 2 earned run average in college baseball coming in here. And we think our strength is offense. And can our pitching staff keep up with this great Coastal Carolina deal? So instead of, whatever you guys think is going to happen this weekend or whatever social media thinks is going to happen, I think it's going to be decided on the field, which is awesome.
yeah. Coach Matt Dean jumping here with Auburn baseball coach Butch Thompson. Then we'll come back for you with Oakley.
Coach, congratulations and best of luck this weekend. Just out of curiosity, when I was fortunate enough to take some teams in NCAA and basketball, it's obviously a single elim every game, but how in a best of 3 in the super regional, how important is that game 1? Strategically, some people and my friends in the baseball world will pitch backwards a little bit, but I mean, you have a very good offensive team and you got some top end starters that are really good. How important is it for you guys to get off to a good start?
Yeah, great question. You have to put your best foot forward. So my 24 years in the Southeastern Conference, that game 1 of a 3-game series is, that 67%, chance to win the series. So we're throwing our best guy for the whole year. Our experience is those 10 weeks of SEC play.
Yeah.
And we won 7 of those series in our league. So we're 7 out of 10, and we're about to play our 11th 3-game series. We're going to throw Dutton, who's our best guy, move him up a day. I think you have to put your best foot forward. But there's been some great coaches that I've coached against and been with, and where you throw like your number 1 on game 2.
Right.
That's a strategy. And I can see it regular season and, this guy needs a break or et cetera, et cetera. But this feels like the one where your season's over. This is not pick up the pieces in the next few weeks. This is you have to throw your best guy. And I think you're throwing the first game for your team because of that. I mean, almost 70% of the time you win a series. And I don't mean somebody can't beat you the next 2. The importance of game 1 is crucial.
Coach, you talked about letting it go this year, or something. I don't mean to paraphrase you, but you just seem to with your team. How do you coach that going forward with keeping these guys sharp? And I know you're all about mental aspect of the game. And what's your message going forward?
We had a bunch of messages this year. Go Mad was our first. That's what's in the locker room. Let's make a difference, right? We had that's ultimately what we want to do above the game of baseball. There's things that are bigger than ball. This team's been through it pretty good. We lost a parent on opening day, and we lost a parent, this week. So members of our team, we've been through it a lot. This is a close ball club. This is a resilient group. This is a confident group. And we've had a lot of say-ins through the year. Some of my favorites have been like, it never ends. I like that. That's even from a faith perspective, man, we think of that. If it never ends, that's something to hold on to. Yeah. Just absolutely stay in it. And when something negative happens, we just go like it never ends. And it just gets you right back into the next at bat, the next thing. For the regional, I'm still trying to come up with something to get to the team today. We've been working the last couple of days getting ready for this one. But, our 3 words last week were respect the game, respect your opponent, force. We're not going to sit here and be able to play patty cake with another team. Somebody's got to enforce their will. Somebody's got to absolutely, put force into a baseball. take calculated risk and the extra 90 feet, et cetera, et cetera. Somebody's going to have an inner presence with a baseball to keep those arms from getting extended to the hitters. So we have to play with force. And then I told them it doesn't matter if you're from the SEC or from another conference. Everybody's done something this time of year. Everybody's good. The winner is the executor who can execute the game the best. So, man, we've had a lot of sayings and a lot of rhythms this year, but I asked the players to give a vision. Every player's had to stand before our group and give a vision for the season. And our first two guys that stood up this year, the first one gave the locker room and the second one gave the dugout. It's pretty neat how we took care of the first two visions of our players, not our coaches, not from the leadership book, not from all that stuff. Our first two visions given to our organization by our players weren't even on the field. It was in the locker room and in the dugout. And I think that's pretty neat and powerful to reflect, look back on, and bring to the forefront today.
Oakley? Yeah.
Hey, Coach. Congratulations on the great season. Just wanted to ask, how big of an impact do you think having the number one strength of schedule has prepared you for the postseason, and how it will continue to prepare you as we get deeper into the bracket?
Yeah, what don't kill you makes you stronger. Last year we had the third strength of schedule and couldn't reach the benchmark of being able to go. But we did this to our program, Oakley, in 2018 and 2019, in probably the first or second initial step to try to build the program. We thought we should have been a regional host, and we were not granted that for 2 years in a row. Now 19, we wound up going on the road and winning the Raleigh regional, and able to go to North Carolina and get through there and get through that super regional, get to our first Omaha. But I started doing research with, the RPI people and the NCAA and scheduling and older coaches, more mature coaches. And we come up with, going on the road more, non-conference, who we play. All those things became ingredients to put together. So I think, this is our third time to host 3 of the last 4 years. So what we learned in 18 and 19, even though we made regionals and one time making it to Omaha, we wound up trying to create a new formula. And, last year was a bust, but it's been 4 years in a scheduling process to give us an opportunity to do what we're doing this weekend, Oakley, and that's hosting the first ever super regional in our program's history.
Yeah.
So it's pretty neat for a program that's been around playing over 100 years, and you got your Bo Jacksons and Frank Thomases and Huddies and et cetera, to be able to do something that's never happened before is a big deal. So it was a process back from 18, 19, and some adjustments if we ever wanted to move into the next phase of development, and that's getting things like this here at home.
Coach, Maury Gaston, great friend of mine in this show, Auburn man, you've met him. He did want to say, he sent me something this morning about freshman pitcher Saxon Roberts of Franklin lost his dad to ALS Tuesday. And you mentioned it a minute ago, but our prayers are with him, not thoughts, but our prayers. I just can't even imagine, because my dad's 96 and he's watching you right now. I count my blessings every day. And my mom's 90. And boy, that's got to be tough on that team. And talk about, I think it was how connected your team is, and especially a freshman pitcher, anybody to go through that.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I lost my dad in 2018, but a grown man, I can't imagine being a freshman in college. And what I'm doing as a head coach is I'm honoring the wishes of each family. There's not a blanket way we handle this.
Yeah.
We are just fulfilling the wishes of the family. Some want more privacy. I can't believe we went through this twice this year. This is not normal.
Yeah.
For this age group and for my experiences as a college baseball coach. But I know this will come out. This happened with Saxon because he was not there for Game 3 of the regional. I don't know if anybody saw any celebration pictures of us after the ball game, but our team's there and they're holding his jersey up, and I didn't tell him to do that or come up with anything. He's amazing. Saxon's amazing in our dugout. He's got a big arm. He's going to be a great player. He's one of these freshmen. We're talking about this great freshman class. He's one of these awesome guys you just hadn't seen yet, that maybe not his time right now, but will be. And he'll be a huge part of this. But mom and dad both went to Auburn. The dad, Derek's an amazing man. Three years ago, he's stronger. He could have tied me into a pretzel. He's just jack, strong, full of life. And then to see that horrible disease and what it can do and how quick it can happen is disappointing. But we're trying to do a lot of privacy with this family. This is kind of the first time it's come up on a forum like this, and hopefully, I did see something out there of they're having the funeral, I think on Friday, and I think the plan is to hopefully have Saxon back in our dugout making a difference on Saturday.
Well, you got a lot of people of a lot of schools that they love it when you're on here because you tell it like it is. Matt, jump back in here with Coach Butch Thompson as they get ready for the Super Regional because this is a big deal. I love the background too, Matt. Matt's an old basketball coach, and he's going to get back on the bench this year. I want to see starting what do you call it, May and June madness. We got to come up with a name for it, Matt, for baseball. This is big.
Coach, this is probably maybe a first-time question for you, but I was thinking I've been a site rep for NCAA games before in basketball. I've coached in NCAA games. Our baseball team ended their season in Division III in a regional up in the St. Louis area, and one of the things that we experienced in round one was a 5-hour weather delay. We had a tornado come through. Those straight-line winds knocked the power out of the ballpark. The city of Edwardsville and Illinois had to come through and take care of us, but we played the game. And I guess my question for this weekend, not knowing the meteorology, but you only can control what you control. How's the weather look for this weekend? I guess that's my question. You guys look like we're good and no stoppages and those type of things.
Yeah, it's been the worst spring of our life weather-wise. I think 6 or 7 of our 10 SEC weekend series were affected, either turned into doubleheaders or game times moved, etc. Our practice was impacted yesterday.
Yeah.
And I see a rain chance. It's laughable now. But I think when you say something you can't control, this time of year, everybody dreams in August. This team come in here in August and they're like, man, we can't wait to go to Omaha. That's what we're shooting for. And like I said, buddy, you'll have 60 games under your belt. Somebody's going to be hurt. Yeah. Nobody's going to feel 100%. We better get some stuff squared away right now.
Yeah, well said.
You lose routine, right? We got NCAA site reps. We're playing at our field and things that we've done all year long. They take over your field. Yes. They tell you when you get on the field, when you come off the field, when you can hit in your cage. ESPN loves us so much they just keep throwing us at 8 p.m. every night, and and I'm getting in bed at 2:30 and we got to come back for a 2:00 game on Saturday. I'm like, cheese and crackers, they're sitting in their office and I'm like, but are they, what about the coaches and the players mainly is these guys on a quick turnaround, but I guess the TV slot, how it fell. So we just say it never ends. That's the one I mentioned a while ago for Brendan. We say good. I've seen the thing on YouTube where like, hey man, this is a problem. This goes wrong with the mission. All the your contingencies, and that's why you prepared. That's why you practice. Nobody cares. And if you're ever leading an organization, if you're ever tired, if you do tired and you allow people to do tired, you're never getting to any finish line whatsoever of quality. So that's a good one to say right off the bat is like, you're not allowed to be sad till the season's over. We don't do tired and we don't do cold. That's what we do in February, March, at least. And then that one kind of dropped now that everybody's sweating buckets, but now it turns into we don't do tired. I kind of got every month of the year, I kind of have a slogan that would help lead if people will listen.
There's no crying in baseball, Coach. There's no crying.
When it's over and you got the last out, you can cry me a river. Till then, you're not allowed to be sad till the season's completely over.
Oakley, jump in here because you're a student at Auburn and you're going to be a sophomore. This baseball is, I think it's just growing every year. What is it about college baseball and this Auburn program that you love so much, besides this guy right here from Coontail, Mississippi?
I mean, I think you mentioned it a little earlier. It's the fact that in baseball, every game, anything can happen. Like, there's no football. You kind of get an idea of what's going to happen. It's a different story every game, and I think the excitement Butch has built around this program has really gotten all the students invested, and winning games will get people to show up. And I think we've created one of the top environments in all of college baseball, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And also the app, Andy Burcham and Brad Law. Holy cow, Coach Thompson. Last weekend ESPN Plus had the games on, but this week it's on the regular ESPN. How big a guy are you on routine? And by the way, Oakley, great T-shirt idea. Butchisms, okay? Don't let the moment be too big. You've got so many sayings. You really ought to. There ought to be a T-shirt for that.
We're actually doing a T-shirt. I hope it's delivered to us. There's a great apparel company I've connected with, and every saying that we've had this year is going to be written on that shirt all the way around that shirt. And it's
all right.
I gave you a couple of them. There's 3 or 4 more there that we've said throughout the year. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I think people give me a hard time. I can only imagine. This is one of those teams that I'm close to, and I can't explain it. I've loved, pretty much every player that hadn't taken a swing at me. I've loved them for my whole life. It's special, but this group here, they'll be coming back. This group will be part of my life, whether they win this next leg and get to Omaha or not. This is one of those defining groups that moved you. And in 10 years, I think we'll be coming back together and honoring this group. This was a special group, regardless of how far they go. But I think they're going to be mimicking me a lot. I can catch them sometimes when I walk in the locker room. They didn't know I'm in the building. I can see them over there saying stuff or walking around a certain way with a limp, trying to make fun of me. But in some way, shape, form, or fashion, I think that's pretty endearing, at the end of the day as well.
And Coach, also, could you shed some light at that Super Regional? You made a comment a few weeks ago when Vince Ferrara from Knoxville was on. He's involved with the Tennessee baseball broadcast crew. And you said, hey, Tennessee's got a chance to do it again. They play in Arkansas in that Super, and also LSU. And again, Little Rock, sub 500 team. I mean, they had to work their tails off, LSU did. So speak to the strength of those 2 other Super Regionals.
Yeah, well, Arkansas and Tennessee, I'd like to, if you're saying would I like to go watch a series other than what we're doing right now, I'd go to Fayetteville. Just to watch the act, the whole who knows what's going on. Oakley's talking about you never know what's going to happen in a ball game.
Yeah,
that would be fun to watch for sure. Tennessee's just undeniable with their talent. That is a confidence infused type deal. It's probably a little more brash. Everybody's got to be themselves. The best version of yourself is being yourself instead of trying to be somebody else. And I think they've done that. Hopefully, we've done that for our own program. But Arkansas is hard to beat, and they're hard to beat at home, and there is some advantage to that. I think Tennessee's already been to Arkansas this year, so this is a return trip of another 3-game series and an opportunity to play it back and do it again. LSU just will stuff. That program, I watched a little bit of them in Little Rock, and Chris Curry, who's been an amazing coach. He was at Arkansas a little bit. He's got some Mississippi ties. Was the head coach at Meridian and played at Mississippi State, so he's a good friend for a very long time. I'm not surprised. That's just a gritty, consistent guy that's done a great job with the program, and they rose up in a moment. Baseball can allow you to do that sometimes if you got a bunch of kids that don't care. If you got a bunch of dirt bags that just will throw it out there, and that program did. And it looks like this week they've been getting a ton of respect and love, which they absolutely deserve for dragging, beating LSU, forcing that last game, and absolutely jumping out 5-1 in that ball game. And then, you start playing 5 games in a regional, that pitching gets a little testy, a little thin, and it would for anybody. And but that LSU is just one and one and one in waves, and they know how to do it. So I expect success, and Arkansas, Tennessee would just be fun to watch, and we'll see. I'd like to get the teams that are left. I'd love for the 3 opportunities for our league to be able to cash in this weekend.
Coach, how good is Coastal Carolina? How they're pretty hot right now. I don't know if they're. I think they're on a winning streak, 21 games. I believe. I could be wrong. Without giving away too much, how do you beat these guys?
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to absolutely continue. We got to be consistent. Can we be on time again with our swings? We've had some runs now, good and bad. We're pretty good. We're pretty buttoned up last weekend. Excellent defense, which we're probably defended as good as anybody in the country. But if that's off this weekend, that'll be a challenge for us. We only threw 7 pitchers in a regional, and I still think that's a challenge for us. If you get us to a lot of depth, we threw 3 guys, I guess, first game. Then we threw game 2 and game 3. We only threw 2 guys in each game, a starter. We were able to pass the baton at the end of the start and get to a reliever, and not just get out of that inning, but that reliever was able to finish a ball game. We used Hetzler, our closer, in game 1. It might be where you have to use him a couple of times this weekend, and how's that going to go without him doing that a whole lot? And I say our pitching has got to stand up, and those 5 or 7 guys have got to be ready to go again and pitch great. And they did last weekend. It was competitive. But we've had moments where we've been up and down. That regional championship game was pretty impressive to me, where NC State scored 17 runs. Stetson scored 12. We come out game 3 and we score 11, and NC State scores 1. Now, there's advantage of winning that 1-0 game, and they're having to play an extra game and play before. I get it. That's part of playing in a regional. But we went low on the mound. We'll have to. Coastal is the number 2 earned run average team in America out of 309 schools or whatever we got. So that's special. I think the first starter is going to have induced vertical break of about 26. That means a ride or carry. We've been used to, even playing the SEC, how much we want to brag at how tough that journey's been. We've been seeing an average about 22, 23 inches of induced vertical break. So you're talking about this thing's hanging on a clothesline even better than anything we've seen. And there's nothing to duplicate it.
Taking a left turn.
Yeah. So there's nothing to duplicate that except for the machines in the cage.
Yeah.
To be able to get it, to create that type of spin to hold a line. There's a lot of respect there. They got a left-handed reliever with a .61. A lot of our strength is our left-handed hitters. Irish, Cooper, Terrell, Fralick. They're going to have an at-bat against him in a moment. And my thing is, it ought to be about their 20th at bat whenever that happens, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So we come out of this thing Monday like this left-handed reliever, they're having at bats against him either virtually or either mentally in a cage or doing whatever. This needs to be about their 20th at bat, because one of these guys, one of our lefties, that guy is going to come get right in their face in a moment in a ball game. And are you going to win that moment or are you not? That's going to be a big deal. Offensively, these jokers, if you're really going to sit here and watch our super coming up, they have over 150 hit by pitches, which leads America, which is mind-boggling to me. They've stolen over 100 bases. We're trying to prepare for the safety squeeze, the action. Kentucky comes to mind, a team that absolutely will have the HBPs, not move, play for it, run a ton. And so hopefully that experience to draw back. But that was a comparison that we gave our team. I'm not sure they're sitting there like a lot of SEC teams trying to go first, second, hit the 3-run homer. But I think what they're trying to do is the paper cut, 1,000 paper cuts and slash you, and they're trying to score a run every week, every inning. And buddy, if you're not on your P's and Q's, that can be ultra effective. So we got a lot to prepare for, but mainly it's we got to do what we do, and we have to be able to apply force again and execute great. It's good to know your opponent, respect your opponent, but we're going to have to be consistent again. We need to be the same team we were last weekend, this weekend.
Yeah. Coach, I know you've been so generous with your time. I know you got to get going. Dave Cody watching the show right now out in Bellingham, Washington, Auburn man, and longtime sportscaster in Austin said, wishes you nothing but the best. And I got to tell you, I got to have several of those T-shirts, and I will buy them when they are available.
I will buy them. I
Butchisms,
love them
because I got to get one for Brendan and everybody on this panel here. But I love it. Mad, make a difference. That's a good takeaway. But I know you're busy. But if people want to reach you, I know within 6 months. I know that
go to the regional.
Yeah, go to the regional this weekend.
Rob's like, here's your number, Coach.
You? Yeah. No, not doing that. No. But the super regional this weekend for people that want to go. What do you want to tell them? And then again, let's do it again next week. And thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people see a lot of stuff on social media and stuff, our atmosphere. I'm so glad this is happening for our program in this first year that we've done all these renovations. It's crazy.
It's spectacular.
I walked the field this morning before getting on with you guys. There's even more. We're trying to get above 8,000 this weekend and try to smash what we did last weekend. And it's awesome to have an Auburn family that I know is going to show up. It's pretty neat to have an administration too that absolutely, instead of just sitting there and looking at the place and like, hey, let's do what we did last weekend. We're building erector sets and more opportunities. We're putting seats above the batting cage for this weekend. It's nice. Sometimes when I've been in a position to where somebody had said, man, you're landlocked, and it's pretty nice to have an administration and a vision to where we're not landlocked, we're vision locked. And for them to even try to build upon what we did last weekend, that's a good mindset of whatever you're out there doing. And you're like, man, this is good enough. Man, keep looking for little ways to always continue to try to make it better. And even if things are slow and you're in a tough spot, keep trying to keep having a vision to try to keep building.
Well, Coach, listen, if I'm able to come down this weekend, I'm going to bring you some Memphis ribs from maybe the Rendezvous if you get hungry. But I know you're going to be dialed in, laser focused. But thank you and the best of luck.
Yeah. You guys have a great day. I always enjoy visiting with you. War Eagle.
Good luck, Coach.
More than you know. Thank you, man. Bringing Gary Harris, another one of the absolute just first-class guys. WVUA Sports Director, Channel 23 in Tuscaloosa, host of Tighter Insider TV, and also does a great radio show 9 to 11 right after this. Put the Tide 100.9 app on your phone. Man, drill down, as Brendan says, drill down local. And, you know, Oakley's dad is from Tuscaloosa, Gary. Grandparents live in Tuscaloosa, so knows the town well. Coach Matt Dean's here, Brendan Martin. But, Gary, first off, how are you? And that was a big deal getting your baseball coach who won 40 games for the first time since 2002 at Alabama. Great discussion on your show yesterday about that.
Yeah, a little bit of pushback from some people. After you go 0-4 in the regionals, 0-2 in Tallahassee and 0-2 in Hattiesburg. I had some people who were like, well, why not wait and see what he can do in the postseason? But I think that you're absolutely right, Rob. I think with the current atmosphere for college athletics, if you've got a guy that you believe is your coach of the future, and there was certainly some interest in him from some programs that were either looking for a coach or might have been looking for a coach. He's only 38 years old. He's got a ton of experience already after a stint at Maryland and 2 years in Alabama. The regular season was terrific. Didn't lose a midweek game. Won 17 games in the league, counting the one in Hoover, and disappointment last weekend. There's no way around it. I mean, it's funny when you say things, and again, I got some pushback on this too. People were frustrated, but I feel like Alabama was the best team in that Hattiesburg regional. You go 0-2 and people are like, what? You didn't win a game. But, I thought they were the best team, and they didn't get it done. But I thought that they, should have won that regional and should be playing this weekend in the Super, but they're not. But I think that the program is in a good spot, growing. We've talked about this before, Rob. In the SEC, you can be good, and good puts you middle of the pack or playing on the first day in the SEC tournament. Alabama's at that good level. To knock it on up to elite is not easy. There's still some teams in this conference that are, elite, and Alabama's not there, but I think they're on the way. And plus, we saw, just like we talk about all the time in every sport, postseason is different, man. You have one bad game and it can change everything. And we saw the SEC, as good as this conference is, and it is. If there was ever any doubt, what's the most polarizing conference? The Big Boy Conference, just the SEC, with how much excitement and pride every other conference took in the fact that, quite frankly, the SEC did not have a great time in the regions. Yeah. You have 13 teams in. You've got 4 left now. You were talking with Butch Thompson. Auburn is one of them. Obviously, LSU and then Tennessee and Arkansas will play each other, which means you'll have at max 3 SEC teams in the College World Series. And, you've got more ACC teams in super regionals than you have SEC teams. And they should take a lot of pride in that. But I think Alabama's in good hands with Rob Browne. I really do. So I think the future is bright. At the same time, you can say all those things and still admit that it was a disappointing performance going 0-2 against Miami and Southern Miss at the Hattiesburg Regional. Yeah, Matt, Oakley, y'all, everybody jump in. This SEC baseball followed up from SEC basketball. It's a hard act to follow.
Yeah. Hey, Gary, I kind of agree with what you said. I'm all in on the Alabama coach. I think he's got y'all's program going in the right direction. It's not going to happen immediately, which we've seen over the last, even though y'all had a good regular season, we saw didn't go as planned, but you've got Justin LeBron coming back for another year. That's best as any hitter in the country. Do you expect Alabama to go all in on pitchers in the transfer portal this year? Well, they got to get some pitching, whether it's through the portal or through, high school and junior college signees. They've got to be deeper, as a staff this year. I think they were 1 starting pitcher short in terms of the SEC rotation on the weekend, and they just didn't go very deep. I mean, for the most part, they kind of used 6 or 7 pitchers all year long, and we're a little bit pitching short. So yeah, I do think Oakley, they've got to get better at the pitching. One thing too about what you said about, good regular season, trying to move it up. A lot of times, again, it comes down, Coach Siobhan said last week, you are judged, you remember by what you do in the postseason, but you can be a lot closer than you think. A hit here or there, a strikeout here or there, and Alabama wins those 2 games, and maybe they're moving on to the super regional. You look at Auburn last year, didn't even make it to a regional, and here they are, a couple wins away from the College World Series. So when you're in this league, like I said, going from good to great is not always easy, but it might only be a hit or 2 away. So I think Alabama next year could be a team that, it's 26 years and counting since they've been to Omaha, which is just remarkable to me. Haven't been to the College World Series now since 1999. But, get a couple pitchers in here. The lineup, I think, could be strong. Hopefully LeBron does stay. I mean, I know, and you and I both know that there are people making, finding out what LeBron's status is, even though he's, a member of the Alabama Crimson Tide. I'm sure people are getting in touch with him. But, yeah, I think Alabama next year has a chance to finish in that top 4 or 5 in the SEC and make a run. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. Yeah, Matt? Yeah.
Gary, I was with you. I watched some of the regional last week, and I actually, when Bama was up 5-3 against Southern Miss, I was really disappointed they didn't finish that game. Doesn't take away from the body of work for the last 2 years of coach, and I think 100% on board with what they did for the future. But, I watched some of the Vanderbilt series too, Gary, and that's got to be the biggest disappointment in college baseball right now is if you're a Vanderbilt fan to get eliminated by that regional final there.
It's embarrassing. I mean, it doesn't mean they're not a great team. Same thing with Texas. Yes. A regular season. When you're the number 1 and number 2 overall seeds and you're at home and you don't advance out of the regional, it doesn't change what they accomplished during the regular season. It doesn't take anything away from those other teams, but you do have to admit that's embarrassing based on the bracket, based on what you're looking at on a sheet of paper, and so, but again, it goes to show you, the postseason is just so different. Take Major League Baseball, for instance. You play 162 games with interleague play. So what does that say? Well, the best team in Major League Baseball is the team that wins the most games over 162. That's the best team. Sometimes that team makes it to the World Series and wins it. Sometimes it doesn't. Because all of a sudden you go from playing, it's like I used to watch the Braves under Bobby Cox, and he was so consistent and so, so good to play for. But in this postseason, more times than not, they failed. because that strategy in the postseason, or we're going to let a guy work through it. Or, you over a 10-game period, you can let a guy work through a slump. But if you're in a postseason and you're playing best, 3 out of 5 or best 5 out of 7, if a guy goes in a slump, sometimes you can't stay with him. You've got to adjust. Or if a pitcher has a bad outing couple bad outings in the regular season, who cares? But in the postseason, he has 2 bad outings. That could be 2 losses for you. So postseason baseball, you play all these games, and then your fate is decided. Sometimes in just 1 bad outing, or Vanderbilt's fortunate they beat Wright State that first game. The kid that was carrying a no-hitter into the 7th inning, and they took him out. So yeah, it is what it is. But for the SEC, Matt, again, you can't beat on your chest and say it just means more and crow about how good you are, and then not expect to have to eat some crow when things don't go your way. And in this instance, again, give LSU, Auburn, Arkansas, and Tennessee credit. But for those other 9 teams that are out, you got to be willing to eat a little crow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Coach, I mean, Gary, I'm thinking on you, Coach, but Blind Squirrel Sports, Buena Vista, Georgia, Buena Vista, however you want to pronounce it. Gary, I was surprised to hear Alabama wasn't in the mix for cornerback Justice Fitzpatrick. How did Kirby's relationship with Minka impact the recruitment of the younger brother? Minka, an absolute stud from New Jersey. I think he had some family, though, in Union Springs, Alabama, but one of the best players ever to wear the crimson jersey. A comment about that, if you can, and hopefully Brad Bellamy, the GM from Landers, will be on because he's itching to ask you some Alabama questions. But I'm curious about the Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, well, Minka was one of the best players to ever play here, no doubt about it. Been a great player in the NFL as well. As far as Justice asked Rodney that same thing, and I just think it was a situation here with this particular coaching staff and with what they're doing. And you're right, Kirby's relationship with Minka, no doubt, and that family paid dividends. I don't think Alabama was ever that heavily involved, Rob. I just don't think it was a situation where they recruited him near to the level that other schools did, including Georgia. So that's the only way I can answer it is Alabama kind of, as we say, went in another direction.
Well, you ain't going to get everybody. I mean, sometimes guys, their whole life grow up pulling for a school and they end up going somewhere else because they offered a scholarship. Oakley, you're at that age now. Gary's talking about that top player for Alabama. He's an Alabama player, but he's getting input and calls probably from all over the country. I don't think you're any different than I was when I was almost 19 like you. I just think it's all about the culture you're in. Don't you think?
I mean, yeah, that's the reality of college sports nowadays. And we do all this blaming of the players, but when you've got – what would you do when you're 20 years old and you're getting $2 million thrown your way? I mean, you're going to take the pay raise more times than not. So I think that it's an institutional problem rather than a player problem, and that's something we've got to get fixed through college sports. And I think the tampering has really gotten to the next level because there were some people floating around on Twitter, don't know how true it is, about Justin LeBron entertaining other schools, and that's straight up tampering. He's still on the Alabama roster. So
yeah,
some problems there and some things we need to fix.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, that is. And Gary, he's looking at Alabama, and you saw the strength of schedules. And I heard this last night on the Chuck Oliver show. I always give credit where I hear it. And Heath Klein was filling in for Chuck last night. I listened to it when I was hiking. 15 of the top 16 strengths of schedules going into this coming season are SEC schools. The only one that wasn't in that top 16 was Missouri, and they're at number 20. Big Ten, and Matt knows the Big Ten well. We play 9 games. Y'all only play 8 in the SEC. The closest, the only one of those teams in the top 16 from the Big Ten was Wisconsin at 15 or 16. What are you for, 8 or 9? And if it's an additional $8 million per school for an additional game, what do you think is going to happen?
You're asking me?
Yes.
Well, I like the 8 game model myself because I just still like having the flexibility outside the conference.
Yeah.
As you pointed out, though, Rob, economics could very well determine all that these conferences do going forward is going to be about money. I mean, that's just the reality of it.
Surprise!
I mean, that's why you're playing these conference championship games. So, I have no doubt if there's going to be that much revenue, additional revenue related to playing a ninth conference game, that at some point they'll probably, implement a ninth conference game. I like the 8 conference model. And one thing too about the strength of schedule, and somebody pointed this out to me in baseball after the SEC didn't do too well, and it applies in football too. The SEC is the deepest conference. There's no doubt about it. But the way these metrics are set up, in baseball, the RPI, somebody sent me an example of it. You played an SEC game and lose, your RPI could go up. And, because in some of these other schools would play some of the schools in their conferences and win, and their RPI go down. So, I'm kind of getting off point here, but I'm making a point that, regardless of what conference you're in, winning and being competitive in your conference is important. But for the SEC, I like the 8-game model, but again, I don't know that they'll stay with it, but that's just my personal preference. Even with 16 teams, I like having that flexibility out of the conference. If you add a ninth conference game, you're going to see fewer of these SEC teams willing to play marquee non-conference games.
Except when they're contractually obligated, like Florida State, Florida, South Carolina, Clemson, and Georgia and Georgia Tech. Matt Dean from Davenport, Iowa. Your thoughts?
No, I agree with Gary. 8's plenty. The Big Ten, if they want to say that 9 is better, I think it waters it down, because if you go from top to the bottom, historically, the Big Ten in football has not even been close to the SEC. Last year was different because Indiana had a resurgence. Cignetti did a really good job, really good portal quarterback. They had some portal players from James Madison. And, I think you get that 9th game. Sometimes you get teams, because of the imbalance in schedules, you get a team with a watered down schedule. Indiana was a great example of that can sneak through and make the playoffs. Gary, I was just looking at that Bama schedule that they put on the board there for us. I wrote down 3 road games, at Georgia, at South Carolina, at Auburn. If you guys take care of business at home, I think as long as you go 1-2 in those games and get to 10 wins, I think you're obviously in. Oh, yeah. But it just shows you that we're talking about this already after baseball's over, how it jumps from an Alabama baseball regional. We get rid of that disappointment. The biggest thing for the Bama baseball team now is we're talking about football schedule right now, I think. So I really think Bama is going to have a bounce back. But I do think those 3 – I think South Carolina – is interesting because they took a big step last year. Their quarterback is unique, very difficult for defensive coordinators to contain him. I'm really looking forward to that game, Bama at South Carolina.
Yeah, I am too. You mentioned, Bama at Georgia, Bama at South Carolina, Bama at Auburn, and Bama at Missouri too. I think all 4 of those SEC road games. Of course, people that know me will tell you I can make a case for, John,
anybody,
ULM. I respect everybody. I don't take it. So it's hard for me to look at any game and say it's a guaranteed win. But outside of the 2 easier non-conference games, I'm concerned for Alabama in that opener against Florida State. I just think, as we've seen in the past, and Rob's alma mater Auburn is a perfect example. I remember in 2012, they couldn't beat Sisters of the Poor, and it was 42-0 in the Iron Bowl at halftime. Think about that for a moment, 42-0 at halftime. And the very next year, Auburn played for the national championship. And I think Florida State, I'm not saying they'll play for the national championship, but I think they could have a similar trajectory this year of going from just a complete washout last season. They've got athletes. I think bringing in Malzahn will be good for their offense. So I think right off the bat on August 30th, even though it's a non-conference game, Alabama better strap on the chin straps tightly when they go into Doak Campbell. I think that's going to be a competitive game.
Yeah, when Chief Osceola comes out on Renegade and throws that spear at the 50. And remember the great voice of the Florida State Seminoles, Gene Deckerhoff, Florida State football, and Coach Bobby Bowden and the Seminoles. This crowd on a Saturday night in Tallahassee, and the Spanish moss is flowing, and here comes Chief Osceola. What an atmosphere that is. And I get so excited about this stuff. Oakley, take over. The coffee's kicking in.
Yeah. Is there any update maybe on the quarterback battle as we head into the summer, and maybe when you're expecting an announcement for the winner?
Well, I think the update, Oakley, is just as it came out of spring when Ryan Grubb made a pretty strong statement that if we play tomorrow, Ty Simpson will be the starter. Now, they don't play tomorrow, but I think that he clearly went ahead and laid out this is the order in which we're going into fall camp, with Ty Simpson as the starter and the other two, trying to catch up, so to speak. Of course, they're younger with Austin Mack and Keelan Russell. And, of course, I want to mention, since I'm mentioning Keelan Russell, just prayers for his family with reports that his twin sister passed away here in Tuscaloosa. I don't know any details other than that, but those reports that came out yesterday and last night. But I think Ty Simpson is the guy that's going to go into fall camp, and he would have to, in my opinion, lose the job. I expect him to be the starter against Florida State. And for Alabama or any school, it's always best that the guy who starts the first game starts the 12th game. I think that means, everything's kind of in alignment. So I think that's where they're headed. Now, as far as an announcement, nothing prior to fall camp. And, they might even wait. I wouldn't be shocked if Ty Simpson comes out and performs well, that at some point in fall camp, Kalen DeBoer announces that he'll be the starter.
And also, to backpack off that question, do you have any worries if it is Ty Simpson, very little in-game experience, maybe worries about his first game going into a tough road environment?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. No doubt about it. I mean, even though this will be his fourth year here, he has played very little. And, I'm concerned. Again, you just don't know how these quarterbacks are going to react when it's their team. And, this is one of those years I would prefer Alabama be starting off against an easier opponent, a directional school at home inside Bryant-Denny, just to get a game under his belt. But that's not the scenario. But sure, I'm concerned because you never know how these guys are going to respond as a quarterback until you put them in that environment. And, we'll find out 2:30 Central Time, Saturday afternoon, August 30th.
See, you just answered it. At least it's not a night game at Doak Campbell, because
it's
better.
It's better
an insane atmosphere.
Although it's going to be hot, brutally hot.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. It'll be humid, of course. But Gary, I know you've got to get going here and do your show. What are y'all talking about today, and how can they follow you? And as always, thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Well, my pleasure. We're going to have a recruiting update today as Alabama gets ready for another big visit weekend. We're going to be talking some more about LeBaron Philon and his impact on the Alabama basketball team. I have said I think he's the biggest, even though he's already on the roster, it's the biggest addition for next season, bigger than anybody in the portal or anybody that they signed. And then tonight, local sports on WVUA 23. So the Gary Harris Show, 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9 FM. That's Tide109.com. You can download the app. And then the sportscast, nightly sportscast, WVUA23.com. We also have an app that you can download there as well. Thanks a lot, guys.
You bet.
See you, Gary.
Appreciate it. See you next week. Guys, what Gary's talking about, that opening game at Florida State. And great question, Oakley. And I like it. Instead of piggybacking, Oakley's got a new one, backpacking off of that. I like that. I like that. But, trees and grass both start out in the same place. The trees don't hang around.
Is that like a celebration backpack that they wear at FSU when they do cool things? That's about the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's right.
I got the backpack.
I just want to know, how do you become Chief Osceola?
That is tough to be cool. And don't talk about Florida State like that ever again around me.
Hey,
it's a neat atmosphere. It sucks. Okay.
Well, it's an intense atmosphere. We used to play them. Auburn used to play
trashy. Okay.
But look, let me tell you, tomorrow's guest, we're going to have a cool guy on here, y'all. Dave Bartu, Matrix Analytical and CAT Athleticism Testing in Portland, Oregon. I've been listening to him.
Did you just say he's a cat tester who's going to get us out of the Matrix from Portland, Oregon? Because that's what it felt like.
You betcha. No, but basically what he does, Dave has a database going back to 2010 of every football coach in America, head coach or assistant. And they find ways to match up staffs. They do the analytics on the numbers. And some of the research that he does, like when guys transfer and they go down a level, their average number of starts in the NFL is 1.12 starts. I think he's gonna blow some people's minds tomorrow. He's also a big time hunting guide, elk, and lives in Portland, Oregon, has a lot of businesses. And he tried to get in, to Oregon, couldn't do it. And then he's working with Mario Cristobal. He works with college and pro teams all over the country. This is going to be some stuff that get your pen and paper handy. But before we wrap up, let me just say, Oakley, great job. Matt Dean, unbelievable. Gary Harris, Coach Butch Thompson. Got to say something about our sponsors. But
bye, guys.
Do it again next week. And y'all have a blessed day because you make this show a blessing every time you're on. Thank you. All right. Say something about Winter Timber Outdoors in Athens, Alabama. Open every day of the week. That's every day, okay, in Athens between Florence and Huntsville. They're building a 13,000 square foot store in Auburn, going to be opening up, looks like the first week or so of August. Going to be an exciting time. All your outdoor hunting and fishing needs. Right now, you're spending a lot of time at the lake, the river, the beach. Got everything Yeti makes. Your outdoor gear, Dixie decoys, Sitka, duck camp, everything you need, hunting and fishing. The St. Nick's knives, they've got all of it into season sale, 30% off on all turkey items and accessories. So Winter Timber Outdoors, proud to have them as a sponsor of Sidelines. And also, I'm wearing this hat here, LandersFordMemphis.com, located at Poplar and Houston Levee. Hey, if wherever you are watching this show, and we've got people all over the place. I got them in Cabo San Lucas, Ray Mooring down there with his wife, Peace River, Alberta, 42 hours away. Look, Landers Ford will deliver a vehicle anywhere. Ask for Brad Bellamy, the general manager. He'll be on with us tomorrow. Got slammed today, but they will work with you to make the right fit for a car, truck, or SUV. Go in there, be completely upfront, and they will find every way. They will do everything possible to help you get in a vehicle. The 25 Expeditions are in. Big inventory of F-150s, F-250s, and the Broncos, the Sasquatch Bronco. Big, my favorite, MJ, be careful driving down to the Panhandle down there to 30A. Be careful, stay awake, you and the hounds. But also, they'll give you employee pricing. And they're right down the street from our good friends at Hewlett and Dunn. And all these hoodies, this is marsh wear. Here we go. Marsh wear. These things are great when you're out in the sun a lot, at the beach, anything. Brendan, I got to send you some of these. You're being XL at 6'4", 212, all muscle.
Double X.
Double, okay. But
and hoodies, man, I like them comfy.
Yeah, they're great. These are comfy. And they've got 7,000 pairs of boots. And I'm going to tell you what, they sell all the Danner trail shoes and the snake boots that Danner makes. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on the square in Collierville. Easy to get to. Memphis, Germantown, Collierville. And I'm telling you, get out to the square. You will love this store. John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, and Bob Dylan would all shop there.
Bob Dylan?
Yeah, he would if he came by there because they sell those Rock Mount shirts.
You're not saying that Bob Dylan shopped there.
Oh, you wouldn't believe who comes in there, and due to privacy concerns, I'm not going to tell you, but it's a rock star store of people that come in.
We need to talk to them about some stories. Yeah. About people who have come in there.
Famous people. We'll get Charles on here to do that, man. But look,
that would be interesting.
Executive producer Brendan Martin, who works harder than 24 Mennonite farmers. Check out this channel.
I don't know, because I saw those farmers and they built a deck online in one day.
Yeah. How about an Amish barn raising?
Full deck.
What we're going to do, I saw an Amish family at the Memphis Zoo last week. By the way, want to say something too about Robert Jones. This is a great guy that watches this show. And he is out there on the road, independent, lone cat, truck driver. All you people out here watching us, share it, tell your friends about this channel. Most often we see the face of Christ at least among us, the most blessed people in the history of the world. Check it out tonight. We'll be on the Buddy Martin Show at 9 p.m. Eastern. There's a lot of shows, Starbo Knows, Scoop, right here on this channel. Have a great day. Night, John Boy.
Night, John Boy.